Welcome to Tales of Blue, where I'm joined by one of the most naturally gifted players of his generation, capable of producing real moments of amazing skill with fantastic ability. 47 goals in 150 City appearances. He's been described as many things while wearing the blue shirt. A maverick, a genius, a crowd pleaser, a unique talent. I'm delighted to be joined by one of the most popular blues of the 1970s, Rodney Marsh. How you doing, Rodney?
Hello, mates. Fire away.
Okay. So, who were young Rodney Marsh's footballing heroes growing up? Which team did you support as a young aspiring footballer?
Okay, well, from the earliest age, my entire family supported Arsenal. Um, I supported Arsenal until I became a professional footballer. And then I completely always watched for Arsenal results, but from that point forward, I didn't support anybody.
You find your way to Main Road, Rodney, via West Ham's youth team and prolific spells with both Fulham and QPR. When were you first aware of City's interest and a move to Manchester being on the cards? And how did the transfer to City unfold?
Well, as I'm now a lot wiser and a lot more mature than I was a few years ago, I can now just tell it like it is. And I was tapped up by Man City 2 years before I signed, and I said at that time it was Joe Mercer and Malcolm Allison. I said at that time they weren't the ones that come to me, by the way. It was sort of third party who I won't throw him under the bus, but very, very famous Man City connection. And I said, yeah, I'd love to come. But they couldn't work out a fee with Queen's Park Rangers because at the time I was really flying. I was about 24, 25. We won the League Cup. We won the third division. We got promotion to the first division, and we won the double along the way as a third division team. I was really flying. I scored 44 goals in one season. So they wanted more than the Man City were prepared to pay at that time. So I could have gone 2 years earlier if the fee would have been what Queen's Park Rangers wanted, because it was a record fee at the time for both clubs. And it's a coincidence. It's kind of ironic that 2 years later I signed for the fee that they wanted in the first place. So that's how it all works out.
Full City in there then, haggling prices. So what was it, your first dealings with Joe Mercer and Malcolm Allison? What were the early impressions of them, Rod?
Well, for those people that don't have not heard over the years the chronology of all, I'll be happy to put everybody on the same page now after all these years. I didn't realise the conflict at the football club. I was just a footballer. I just wanted to play football, and I love playing football. And I didn't understand the conflicts at the club. I didn't understand the conflict between Joe Mercer and Malcolm Allison. I didn't understand the conflicts in the boardroom of the chairman and of Peter Swales and in the background and all the thing. And it was, I didn't understand any of that. But after a very short period of time, I realized that I was the thing that blew it all up because half of them wanted me, half of them didn't want me. And I was just a football player that played football. I was kind of stuck. I was like Steelers' wheel. I was kind of stuck in the middle with you. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. I'm stuck in the middle. So that's how it all worked out.
Were you familiar with many of the lads or the staff already at the club?
Oh, absolutely. I was familiar with the players because it was an absolutely brilliant football team. I knew all the players, even the players that didn't get the credit at the time around England. Players like Alan Oakes and Mike Doyle and Tommy Booth and they were just within the game. They were just well-known players. I mean, the Summerby, Bell, Lee, and all that. Everybody knew them, but I actually knew the whole team. So it wasn't when I went into the club. I knew everybody. But what was funny, and again, as City fans, you need to understand this. straight from the off, half the team were against me and half the team were for me. So I had to live through that. I had 4 years at Main Road. I had 4 fantastic years with the fans. I loved playing. I loved the Kipaks. And I had 4 great years as a footballer. But throughout it, it was a split in the camp. It was a definite split.
So how did you find the change from QPR and London to Manchester and City, Rod?
Well, that's a terrific question, because I had no clue in terms of geography how I was going to react. I knew, obviously knew Lancashire and Manchester and Yorkshire and all the surrounding counties to all that, and I've been up there obviously lots of times to play. But the first person that got hold of me was Mike Summerby, and he said, Rodney, he said, the place you need to live, he said, I would live there if I could afford it. He said, there's a place called Prestbury, which obviously I know it's in Cheshire. I never heard of it. And he took me out there several times, showed me around. And he was terrific, Mike Summerby. And eventually I bought a house in Prestbury in the same estate that, 30 years later, Wayne Rooney bought a house in this. It's called Packsaddle Park. And I had absolutely 4 fantastic. I'd go down to the local pubs in Prestbury Village. I love having a Sunday morning after the games and meeting up with everybody. And there was lots. Mike Yarwood, the comedian impersonator, he would be in the pubs talking about it. It was just a lovely, lovely time.
So was City going well in the league when you joined, Rodney? And a league title a real possibility? we'll come to that. We'll come to that. Don't worry. How do you?
Funny you should ask that. Yes, go on.
But when, on first joining, how do you remember the mood in the dressing room? And were you welcomed into the group to start with?
I seem to be welcome with the. This is a difficult one, because I don't want to alienate the team at the time, but I was accepted right away because I always found that northern people, as opposed to southerners, northern people generally, they speak as they find. You meet somebody, and if you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. There's no in the south, where I come from, southerners hate everybody. So it was kind of a lovely. I just had the people were in Manchester. Anybody in Manchester, not only in the game, everybody I met. Well, 99% of the people were so lovely to me and my family, and I will ever respect and revere that.
So 4 goals in what was a short debut season, including the 3rd in the 3-1 win at Old Trafford and a superb solo effort against eventual champions Derby. If you had to choose one of them 2 goals, which would be the favourite, Rod, and why?
Well, the better goal technically was the goal against Derby, because they were top of the league at the time with us, and the goal itself, I beat 2 players and shot into the far corner. But the goal at Old Trafford, I mean, they hated me. The Old Trafford Man United fans.
I don't think it was just you.
yeah. But no, the reason I said that is because. Little known fact, and again, when you go back over the years, people don't know these things, okay? I didn't start immediately for Manchester City. I was on the bench for many games. The
goal at Old Trafford, Rod, was from the bench, wasn't it?
Exactly. But what was fascinating was this. I was on the bench, and I think the score was 1-1 when I came on. And it was raining. The rain was coming down, and it was one of those where the tackles were flying in, and Malcolm, I think it was about like 30 minutes to go. Malcolm went, "Warm up, son, warm up," and we had these incredible, luminous yellow tracksuits with the hood up, and I was running up and down the sidelines in the main stand trying to warm up, and the entire crowd of 70,000 started singing, "Rodney is a fairy, Rodney is a fairy." And I went onto the field. Within 5 minutes, somebody down the right-hand side pulls it back, bang, back of the net. Oh, did I give it plenty to the fans?
Yeah, I bet.
So yeah, and we went on and won 3-1. So in terms of the impact, that goal, but in terms of quality, the Derby County goal, yeah.
But obviously, so much has been said and written over the years. Rodney Marsh's signing cost City the title that season. You more or less saying so yourself in your 2010 autobiography. Did you feel any resentfulness from the team during and after that period, or was it something that played on your mind, Rodney?
Oh dear. Nobody, to my face, nobody in the team accused me of costing City the championship. Okay, to my face. After I left, I found out that there were 3 or 4 players that were stabbing me in the back the whole time. And that had gone around my back to the chairman and the manager, who ended up being Tony Book by this time. So there was a few of them were stabbing me in the back, but the majority were just decent people, decent footballers.
The City faithful was soon fully aware and appreciative of why Big Mal was so determined to bring you to Main Road as you finished your first full season at the club on 19 goals and then starting to feature regularly for England also. What are your standout memories of the 72-73 campaign, and how was life at City for you from a personal point of view?
Yeah, well, what people don't know, because unless you was around and followed my career, what people don't know was I was never a striker. I read all these articles over the years and different things, and people, even today, I'm reading something online where somebody said, "Oh, last week Manchester City former striker Rodney Marsh said about Harry Kane," or whatever it was, and I'm always looked at as I was never a striker. I never played a striker role. I played a little bit like Kevin De Bruyne, but further forward. I was never the tip of the Aguero spear or Franny Lee up front. I was never that player. I was always the player a little bit deeper. So, it wasn't my job to be the leading goal scorer. The fact that I ended up being that at Queen's Park Rangers and at other places was by the by. That wasn't my role. So from day one, I was always a deeper lying player.
False 9? Would you be a false 9 nowadays?
Well, they call it false 9. In the old-fashioned days, they called it inside forward. If you remember, you won't remember this. Older people will. Man City had fantastic inside forwards, and I always put Alan Oakes. I mean, Alan Oakes was one of the greatest players who never gets a mention. Alan Oakes was a lovely, lovely player, more defensive-minded. But he was up and down, and he could shoot, and he could cross, and he could. But I was like an attacking inside forward, if you want to put it that way.
But by March 1973, Big Mal had left the club. What sort of impact did this have on you as a personal point of view, with him being the man mainly responsible for bringing you to Main Road?
That's another great question, because he called me in before he made the decision. He called me and said, "Rodney," he said, "I brought you to Main Road, and I'm thinking about leaving." And I went, "What?" He said, "I'm having an affair with a lady in London called Serena. Serena Williams, her name was." He said, "And I'm going to go down and move down to London and live with Serena and join Crystal Palace." And I went, "Are you mad? You brought me all the way to Manchester with my family. You're going from Man City at the peak, and you got Colin Bell, and you got Summerby, and you got Lee, and you got a brilliant, brilliant team scoring. And you're going to go to a 3rd division team in Crystal Palace." And he went, "Well, that's what I wanted to do, Ronnie, but I wanted to sell you first." And I said, "Malcolm, you got to do what your heart tells you." And 10 minutes later, I think he was off.
Love will do funny things to a man.
Yeah, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So, over the next year or so, Johnny Hart, Tony Book, Ron Saunders, all that spells in the manager's seat, which culminated in mediocre mid-table finishes, really, for us, which was below City standards set at the time. What impact were these changes having on the squad and the team?
Well, what happened was after Malcolm left, Manchester City didn't know what to do. Quite honestly, they had, of those, I thought Ron Saunders was the best man manager. Got us to the final in 74 against Wolves in the final, and we lost. We absolutely pummeled them that day and lost 2-1. But Ron Saunders I thought was the best man manager. But it was a big upheaval, and as you say, there was like 3 or 4 or 5. I think Johnny Hart was like an interim manager for a while, and they all wanted to play in different ways, and it just completely lost its way. Of course, they got rid of Franny Lee, who came back with Derby County. They got rid of Summerby. Colin Bell got a terrible, terrible injury that ruined his career. And the whole club absolutely imploded in a very short period of time.
By the start of the 73-74 campaign, you're arguably one of the main stars of the team that sees City reach that League Cup final. You hit a hat-trick along the way in the 4th round with a win over York. With City expected to beat a strong Wolves side in the final, but we eventually lose 2-1. What are the memories of that day, and how disappointed were you from a personal level to have missed out on the winners' medal?
Well, I missed a chance that day at 1-1. I missed a chance, which 9 times out of 10 I would have buried it. The ball came across the middle of the box, and I tried to pass it into the corner like I did. That was one of my things I did. I used to pass the ball, and I didn't catch it properly. I didn't catch it right. It was a miserable effort, and the keeper saved it. I shouldn't have given him no chance. And we pummeled them. Colin Bell was brilliant that day, and we pummeled them, and Dennis Law, and it was like shooting in practice, as City do from even today. They have games where, I mean, last week's game against Fulham, where they spent most of the game shooting, and then ended up winning 1-0. Well, that day we actually lost 2-1.
If I said to you, Rodney, give me a no-hold-barred story, a funny story, a City-related story from an away day, a trip, a players' night out, what would spring to mind?
I could probably tell you about 30 or 40. I'll tell you one of the most amazing stories that I found at the time. Maybe the listeners today won't identify with the story, but it's this. We went down to play Chelsea in a midweek game. We played Chelsea and we were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I can't remember the score, but we played this game and we were brilliant. And afterwards we went we finished the game at 10 o'clock, whenever it was, and we wanted to get something to eat and a glass of wine. So we all went, most of the team, about 8 or 9, maybe more, went to a little bar in Mayfair in central London that Summerby knew, the owner and all that sort of stuff. So we all went down there and we was having a few bottles of champagne and chatting and laughing and joking. Fantastic team spirit. And suddenly, James Last. Now, James Last was one of the biggest stars in the world. It was a music piano player, director. James Last, his name was. He had an orchestra. They were #1 in the world. He walked in with his group. They just did a gig somewhere, and he walked in and sat down at the table. And we were like, I guess about 20 feet apart. He had his great big table. We had our table, and it was all going off and laughing and joking. And suddenly, Franny Lee gets up. He walks over, and he said, James, he said, I'm here with all the Man City players. Now, I think I'm right in saying that James Last was American. And he said, would you mind getting on the piano and playing Blue Moon for us? And he got up, and he started playing Blue Moon. James Last, one of the biggest superstars in the world. And we cracked up over that. It was a smashing night, that was.
Brilliant story, thank you. So with Tony Book now in charge and City getting off to a great start to the 74-75 season, you hit a double in the opening day 4-0 victory over West Ham and just 3 defeats from the first 15 games. Despite the promising start, rumours were rife of unrest between you and the management during that campaign. Was this the start? Was this the start of your eventual departure from the club?
Absolutely, yeah. Tony Booker had called me into his office in pre-season that year, and we were talking about the way the team played, and he made me captain of the team. And I had my views on the team. I thought that the team should be an attacking way of playing. He was the manager, and he didn't want to play that way. You know, he was more cautious. Now, I always and always will bow to the manager of anything. I mean, you know, the manager's in charge. It's his job but I didn't enjoy it. We played and we scored some fantastic goals, and we won a lot of games. That year, I think in that year, I think we got to the final. After I left, we went to Wembley and won the League Cup with that team. When Dennis Stewart scored the overhead kick against Newcastle. But I rowed all the way through from pre-season till when Tony Buck called me in and said, "Look, we can't do this anymore, Rodney. I'm going to put you on the transfer list. You know, it's either me or you, and it's going to be you." So I went, understood Tony, and that was the way it was.
That was the start of the 75-76 season, because it'd been going well. Even a rare-headed goal, in a 3-2 win at Arsenal for you. But you played in the City shirt for a final time against Burnley during October.
0-0.
Which you more or less just explained by the sudden circumstances for your departure. Were there any other English sides in for you? And how much truth in the rumours that Elton John played a part in your move to the States?
Oh, massive. Because I was very, you know, there's ways of doing things. And Tony Book told me he didn't want me anymore. I was captain. He made me captain and then told me he didn't want me because we just couldn't get along, you know. And that's fine. That happens in life. But he made me train with the injured players. And I thought, why the fuck are you doing that to me? Why would you do that to me? You know, I'd rather train on my own, you know, because the first team was there and they had the squad was together and I was the outcast. And it was about 3 months that I had to train with the injured players. And I didn't want to upset the apple cart because they could have fined me and suspended me and then cut all my money and all that nonsense. So I just went along with it. But I was training with injured players that couldn't run. And I was peak fit. So that kind of pissed me off. And then I got a phone call from Elton John's agent who said, "Rodney, we're reading in all the papers that you're upset and that they're doing this to you and they're doing that to you. And you said you need a break and blah, 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 blah." So he said, "Elton John's flying his private plane to Los Angeles next week. Would you like to come with him?" I thought it was a wind-up. I thought it was some like practical joke from Willie Donachie and Asa Hartford.
Because this is well before his Watford time, isn't it? This.
Oh yeah. He was going to buy Los Angeles Aztecs. He wanted to buy me and George Best, and because George had retired at that point from English football, and I was still high flying, and I said, "Yeah, no problem." So I went to LA on the Elton John. He wasn't actually on the plane himself; he was on a different private jet. But I went with all the invitees on the private Elton John jet to Los Angeles. Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any chance to stay in England at that time?
Oh, I had a chance to go everywhere. I would ask Tony Book every time something came up, so that I wouldn't be out of my contract, if you will. And I could have gone to Anderlecht. I could have gone to Aston Villa. I could have gone to Newcastle. I could have gone to Crystal Palace. I think Terry Venables and Malcolm Allison were at Palace still then. Could have gone to West Bromwich Albion. There were like 6 or 7 clubs I could have gone to, but I'd had enough. Do you know what I mean, Mark? There's times where, you know, I just had enough of it. And I thought, Elton John, Los Angeles. And when I went there, it was just like all the weight lifted off my shoulders. It was just, and I ended up not signing for Los Angeles Aztecs, although George did. Bestie signed for them. I signed for Tampa Bay Rowdies in Florida.
So if you could change one thing during your time at Main Road, Rodney, what would it be? Or maybe you would.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, I'm not one of these people that, you know, I can't remember what the saying is about unto thine own self be true. Is that Shakespeare? Unto thine own. And I was always true to myself in football. I was always true. I always did what I thought was right when I thought it was right, and damn the poor torpedoes. And over the years, I got in so much trouble over the years being the person I am still today. But I don't regret, because it's easy to knuckle under and say, yes, yeah, you're right, when you know that something's wrong. And I'll give you an example. And I don't know who this podcast is going out to, by the way. So, but I'm assuming there's going to be fans that, you know.
Yes, yeah.
One day when I was captain, one day, I think this is the same frame. You know, you'll correct me and check it out. We actually sold Francis Lee, and I went and I said, "Why in the world are we selling Francis Lee to Derby County, our rivals? Why are we doing that?" And they looked at me as though I had three heads. And so Franny Lee, World Cup player, Man City legend, still playing great, by the way. They dump him, and they bring in a player. Now I'm going to say this slowly. They bring in a player, and this is no slight on the player himself. This is no. I'm not disrespecting the player himself. His name was Barney Daniels, and I thought, and he was from Telford or some non-league team. And I said to them, You've got rid of Francis Lee and you're replacing him with Barney Daniels. And I thought, how in the world could you do that? Why would you do that, right? I actually went against that. Now, should I have kept my mouth shut? No. You can only be yourself, because there's so many people out there that they know who they are, and they stab people in the back, and they can't look at themselves in the mirror because they've been rotten people. I don't want to be that. I want, you know, if I tell it like it is, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I'm not going to compromise my football principles. I'm not going to compromise that. No.
Absolutely, no. Fair play. Brilliant. So, how does Rodney Marsh look back on his time at Man City as a player and the fabulous relationship he had with the fans then and still now?
Well, it was the happiest time of my life, those 4 years. Although we didn't win anything while I was there, we played great football. I absolutely got on fantastically well with the fans, because they all started singing the Chicory Tip song, Son of My Father, the first day I arrived there. Oh, Rodney, Rodney. And they sung that for 4 years, and I really, really respected that and loved it. I gave them everything I had to give the fans. I remember Stan Gibson in the grounds when we laughed so much. I remember Helen with the bell, who come onto the field one day and kissed me. And Helen, I don't know if you know Helen with the bell, the history of that and all that. So I had a great time. I had an absolute fantastic time, and left my heart. I left my heart in Manchester, no doubt about that.
Fantastic. So, what's your opinion of the 2021 Manchester team?
Fantastic team, great players. Don't think they will rise to the heights of the Vincent Kompany era. Could be wrong. Hopefully, I will be wrong, and they'll go on. But under Vincent Kompany and David Silva and Sergio Aguero, when they were all playing at their maximum prime, and going back to one of the greatest players, midfield players that ever played, who for some reason is getting very little over the years, Yaya Toure. Yaya Toure was a magnificent, absolutely magnificent footballer. So are you gonna get back to that again? Who knows? But this team is fantastic. Got fantastic players. I don't like the attitude of several players. I don't like the professional attitude of some of the players. I don't like that. But that's okay. They've got their own reasons. But no, the team of 3, 4, 5 years ago was breathtaking.
Players for sure. So, Rodney, I've got some questions where I need a one answer only.
Okay.
Colin Bell or David Silva?
Colin Bell.
League title or Champions League?
Champions League.
Malcolm Allison or Tony Book?
Next.
VAR or no VAR?
No VAR.
Kevin De Bruyne or Rodney Marsh?
Kevin De Bruyne.
And toughest opponent you ever faced, not just while at City, ever?
Chopper Harris.
Right, and these ones are your favourites, Rodney. Favourite City goal?
Bicycle kick against Queen's Park Rangers, 1-0, and I've come from Queen's Park Rangers and scored against them. But it was an important goal, and it was a brilliant, absolutely brilliant. There's a photograph of it somewhere. A bicycle kick. I've seen it on the internet. So, yeah.
Favourite City teammate?
Willie Donachie.
Favourite away ground you played at?
Anfield.
Favourite City game?
Oh, that I played in?
Yeah.
That would have to be the Manchester United, my first derby game away in the rain, 3-1, when I scored off the bench.
This may be controversial. Least favourite teammate?
Dennis Churt.
And fans' questions here. This one's from Mark Jones. Was there any truth that you were part of a consortium who potentially looked at buying the club?
Yes.
That weren't a one answer. Any more on that, Rod?
Yeah, there was a group of, I think it was 1980, 1981, somewhere around there. I had, Franny Lee would probably answer it better because he was negotiating at the same time. So that would be in the same time. I had a group of American investors who I'd gone to and said, Manchester City are going to be the biggest brand in Europe in the future. They're a fantastic sleeping giant, and we opened negotiations. But Franny called me in Tampa and said, Rodney, are you negotiating with I think it was Peter Swales at the time. He said, are you negotiating? Because I don't want to get turned over because they're saying that you've got a consortium. I said, yes, Franny, I've got a consortium, but we ain't going to buy it. So the answer to the question is yes, I was involved in it. And yes, I did have a consortium, but I can't remember what year that was, by the way. You'll probably check it out. So because Franny Lee, I think Franny actually ended up buying the club at that time. So there you go.
But for Mike Sheldon, what happened to the tankard you didn't pick up when we lost the Wolves in the '74 League Cup final?
What was funny was what was funny was I used to hate losing. I was the world's worst loser. I threw chess sets up in the air and all sorts of stuff. I was a spoiled brat. I hate losing. And I walked off the field and all the lads went up to get their tankards and all that. And I just walked into the dressing room. And over the weekend, so many people come to me and said, Rod, you got to go and get your tankard. You got to go and get it. So I wrote to I sent a telex or whatever in those days that you send. I sent a telex to the Football League because it was a Football League trophy, and said, I didn't pick up my tankard on Saturday at the game. Please, could I have my tankard? I got a letter back saying, I got a message back saying, and I'm paraphrasing what it said, piss off. Because they'd all seen it on television, me walking off the field and refusing. Because a couple of players come up and say, come on, Rod, you got to go and get your. I said, no, bollocks, no. So I didn't. And I have no idea where that is, because I think in those days, I think I'm right in saying they probably inscribed them. I don't know. There you go.
Clive Cosgrove, was the goal you scored against Derby your best ever goal? If not, then which one?
Oh, no, not even close. I scored some incredible goals at Queen's Park Rangers. There's one goal on which wasn't the best, but you can check it out. It's on the internet. Fulham versus Hereford. It was a bench shot from right on the edge of the angle of the penalty area. That was 1976. You check it out on the internet. That was a great goal. Wasn't my best. The best goal I scored that I always talk about was a goal that nobody saw. So it was against Colchester in the League Cup, when QPR were going to the League Cup along all the rounds, and we played Colchester. And I think I'm right in saying, I'm sure you'll check this out, must have been 1966, 1967, around that time. We played Colchester, and I scored 4. And one of the goals was from 40 yards. And it was a driven bench shot, but it was raining. And as the shot went in, it hit the stanchion at the back, and all the rain dropped off the net. And there's a photograph that I lost. I had a photograph of the actual ball going into the goal. And that was just brilliant.
A proper goal. So,
yeah.
If you can give us some predictions, Rod, for Premier League champions 2021,
Manchester City,
FA Cup,
Manchester City,
prize Premier League team for this season,
Everton,
player to watch.
Player to watch. You're talking about players that we already don't know.
Yeah, reading that back's a difficult one, because they're brought up so, they're raised so quick, aren't they, the players now? So it's not everyone.
Yeah. Player to watch. Well, we've been watching him for 3 years now, and he's Phil Foden. He's just reaching. I'd like to see him start more games. I would have liked him to start more games last year, but we're already watching Phil Foden, so I don't have one in mind that I can think of. I tell you, as a lovely player who desperately needs coaching. There's a player plays for Crystal Palace. His name is Eze, Eze. I don't know if you know too much about him.
Yeah, I know the lad. Did he just come from QPR? Did he
come from QPR? I saw him at QPR in front of nobody about a year ago. Oh no, it'd be more than a year now, wouldn't it? And I saw him play for QPR. And there's an old player called Don Shanks. I don't know if you know the name Don Shanks. And he called me and said, "Rod, you want to come and look at this player? He's such a skillful, fantastic player, but he needs coaching. He's only 20 now. He needs coaching. So keep your eye out for Eze. Or at the moment, they're trying to find out how to correctly pronounce his name, because I call him Easy. And if it was me, I would change the way I spell it, because he's got a marketing branding for the next 25 years. Yeah,
there's certainly a song in there somewhere as well.
Got to be in there. Got to be.
So will City win the league, Champions League? Sorry, under Pep's tenure?
No, that's the killer. That's the killer. To win the Champions League, you have to consistently beat the best around, and you don't get a break in the Champions League. When you get to this stage, you don't get a break. Are City good enough to win the Champions League? Yes. Will they? No.
And there's a lot of luck involved. Not maybe luck's the wrong word, but you've got to, along the way, plays a big part in it, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but there's also another thing you throw in there as well, because not a lot of people are talking about this. But when you play in front of nobody, it changes the dynamic of a football match. that's why you're seeing a lot of missed penalties now, because it changes the whole dynamic of the game, and home and away don't matter anymore because you're just playing in front of nobody anyway. So Champions League, and I've watched every team play in the Champions League. Champions League is becoming a bit of a lottery this year. This will be the year, if ever. But you see, you can't win it without a tip of the spear. You cannot win the Champions League without a tip of the spear. So, and I don't care who that tip of the spear is, whether it's Lewandowski or whether it's Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. You need a tip of the spear to win it. City don't have that.
No, not at the minute.
City don't have that plan.
So what's Rodney Marsh of 2021 up to?
Well, I've got living in lockdown in Tampa, Florida. I've got a radio show that I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm still working. The radio show is called Grumpy Pundits because I am a grumpy pundit. And it's a 3-hour show live. So we talk about, we have Peter Barnes on, we have so many guests from England and blah, blah, blah. But it's a chat show. So I do that 3 days a week. The
football's still a very big part of your life.
Well, football is my life. I love football. I was born to be a footballer. I was born to be a player. And I just love watching great players play football and great teams. So there's very few games that I miss these days, by the way. So there you go.
So we can finish up, Rod, if I can ask you to just sum up Colin Bell as a footballer.
I would urge you to go on to, because I've put this in writing, I've done it. And I would urge you to look at it. If you go on to Rodney Marsh 10 on Twitter and go to Sirius XM FC on Twitter, I did a podcast on him, talking all the things that I felt about Colin Bell. So it's probably better that you get it from there.
Sure, will do. Rodney, it's been an absolute pleasure for me and an honour to talk City with you. I wish you a very happy, healthy 2021.
Same to you, buddy.